Hi, this is One Talk with Todd, and I'd just like to talk to you for a minute and encourage my friends here. Some of us have been in conversations about hearing the voice of God, and I just want to encourage you that you can hear the voice of God, and I want to do what I can to explain how I've discovered that myself. I was in a season not long ago where I needed to hear from God. I needed to know that my relationship with God was real and living. I cried out to God and I said, Lord, I need to know. I need to know that we're okay. I need to know where I'm going, and I need to know what my next step is. And it was a time in my life where I wondered if God truly accepted me. And I was beginning to understand my identity as a son. And I truly needed more. I needed to know that I had a living relationship. I needed to know that it wasn't just me believing something about God, but it was me actually knowing God and having a conversation with Him. And I wanted to know. So I did some research online and found some resources that helped me hear the voice of God. And one of the things was a ministry that introduced two-way journaling with the Father. And through this process, I was able to quickly and immediately hear the voice of God and write it down and record it. So writing it down isn't anything special, but just being able to record it so you can go back and meditate and even ask the Father more about it, what else He wants to show you regarding hearing His voice. So basically the process was getting to a place where you can be quiet, getting to a place where you could just connect with His Spirit and you're listening to Him, and then also being able to see Him in your presence and watching Him. Several ways there are to be able to use your spiritual eyes to do this. One of the ways is just to talk to Jesus. We have an image in our minds of what Jesus looks like. Sometimes He's wearing blue jeans. Sometimes it's more traditional during His time on earth. But we can invite Jesus to come and hang out with us. And it's often very nice to take someone through this process and just say, close your eyes, get quiet. I want you to be able to see Jesus right now. At first, you take yourself to a quiet lake. Often lakes are quiet and peaceful, and we do that by just imagining what the lake looks like, seeing yourself at the lake, seeing yourself sitting on the lake's edge. Maybe you're sitting in the grass there with your feet in the water. Maybe you're on the dock with your feet hanging off the dock. And imagine yourself being there. And then in the distance, we say, now watch Jesus walk up to you. Take a minute and look at Him in the distance. Do you see Him over there by that tree? And He's walking towards you, and people will immediately say they can see Him in the distance. That's easy. So Jesus is coming. So their eyes are closed, and they're imagining Jesus coming towards them, and He walks over there. And I said, all right, when He gets to you, what does He do? And many times they'll say, well, He's sitting down on the dock with me. Okay, that's good. Now, sometimes we'll get to a point where they're really wanting to see the face of Jesus, and this might be a stretch for them. This might be difficult for them to do because that's very intimate. When you're looking in someone's eyes, you're knowing them, they're knowing you, and that's intimate. And sometimes we have a block and an idea that if we look into the eyes of God, we'll be incinerated, but not so with Jesus. We know He walked on this earth for 30 plus years and hung out with His disciples, and they enjoyed the presence of God right there with Him. In fact, He was the express image of the Father. So when we do this, we say, all right, let's look at Jesus. You see Him sitting next to you, and they know He's there. Now we can say, let's see what we can see of Him. If they can't see His face immediately, we talk about, well, what part can you see? we'll say, can you see his hand? You know, what if you're on the shore of the lake and you're throwing rocks into the lake? Watch yourself throw a rock into that lake. Pick up a rock, throw it in there. You see yourself do that? Then you say, now watch Jesus throw a rock into that lake. So watch him pick up a rock with his hand. And then we'll say, okay, look at his hand. Do you see his hand with that rock in it? And I'll say, yeah, I can see that. Now look at his arm. Can you see his arm? And I'll say, yeah, I can see his arm. You say, go ahead and look at his shoulder. Do you see his shoulder? And often, yes, I can see his shoulder. And then look at his hair. Look at his ear. And they can see that. I see that. Now look at his cheek. Yeah, I can see that. And I'll take them to a place a little higher. Say, look at his forehead. And then they can see that. And then I'll say, all right, now look at his eyes. And what do you see? And oftentimes they'll be able to see his eyes. Sometimes the eyes are so radiant, it's blinding. Sometimes it takes a minute for them to adjust. And I'll say, okay, look again. And they'll take a minute, they'll look, and they'll look again. And then I'll say, what color are his eyes? And they'll have a color, brown or blue or whatever, or sometimes just light. And it's very loving. It's very loving. We can look at the eyes of Jesus. And we do this through our imagination, which is a point of communication with the Father. Just like our ears are, just like our eyes are. We have all the senses in our spirit that we have in the natural as well, and in our soul. So we look at Jesus this way, and we can see him. And you can see him, and you can talk to him, and then you can ask him a question. And often the one I use first is, Jesus, do you love me? And we'll say, Jesus, do you love me? And then we'll tell them, now listen to his voice. What does he tell you? It may be a word, it may be a sentence, but oftentimes it sounds like, of course I love you.